Hey, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the Two Moons podcast with me, Jess, your host. And today we have my good friend, Sara Socie, a tarot card reader, an intuitive, a meditation, tarot, everything. You do everything, Sara.
I do. I try to work on a little bit of everything.
I
Be
love
well
it.
rounded. Thank you. Thanks for
So
having me.
I'm excited to have you here. I thought it would be a good topic to talk about tarot. I love your tarot readings. Sara is also a TikTok creator and does a lot of tarot on TikTok, which is how I met her. And I want to know, how did you get into tarot? I guess we'll just dive right into it.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, thank you so much though, by the way. That's very nice. Yeah, so I was working at a gas station actually, and one of my coworkers, she was in town like temporarily staying in my area, and originally she had done tarot for years and years, like 20 years, and I was telling her about my experiences. Like I had some intuitive experiences in high school, and she was like, she pretty much just like pushed it on me. She was like, "You have to learn this." It was like she didn't give me an option. But now looking back, I'm very thankful for that. Of course, I've really dived into it, and it's brought me so many blessings. But it just was kind of handed to me. It was like back in 2020 I started reading, so it's when I think a lot of people were gravitating towards more like spiritual or like holistic
Mhm.
approaches to things. So I feel like I got in a time where like everybody else was interested. Um, I was very supported during that time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that the during that time period it was so interesting because it gave a lot of people the courage to be more outward about it, you know? And so
Yeah.
there was like this influx of holistic and spiritual and witchy stuff because people were feeling more comfortable and supported.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think if I didn't have like other people that were interested in it around me, I think at the time I probably would have been a bit discouraged. I
Yeah.
received like a good bit of pushback from like my family and like people close to me. So if I didn't have like the community like online or just like the wider spiritual community, I don't think I would have pursued it the way I did.
It, One of the reasons why I love your reads so much is because they feel so genuine. I feel like, especially on TikTok, sometimes, you're scrolling through and you see readers and you're just like, at least for me, I think, bye, I'm out of here.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I appreciate that you take them as genuine. I really do try to like be as authentic as possible. It's definitely, I think, easy being on TikTok to like, I guess, have that pressure to just show people what they want.
Hmm.
Not what they want, but I guess like what is going to be received well. Um, I've definitely ran into like a few creators that I took as very genuine, but then I kind of saw them over time shift into like something that I could tell was more for the views, and I find that kind of frustrating, but I try not to judge them because I understand like everybody's just trying to find their place, and it's probably easy to get into that at times.
Yeah, I
So
think that there's also this like sometimes there can be this like, well, I want to be received well, like what you just said, like I want to be liked and whatever. And that ego gets in the way so much of everything. And I think that that is why, as a reader myself, why the spiritual path has been so beneficial with the intuitive work is because
yes.
it brings this level of grounding where I'm able to step out of the way and let like, the divine come through.
Yeah, absolutely. I think being on social media in a weird way has pushed me in the direction of mindfulness because I got very overwhelmed a lot of the times because it does feel very competitive, unfortunately. Even the spiritual community, that was a big shock to me is how competitive it could be. And I just kind of actually got quite discouraged in that I needed that sort of healing to try again. And the only way to do that, I think, was through mindfulness. So I think you make a really good point or a good connection there. Um, should I not have that, I don't think I would be, I guess, presenting myself the same way.
Yeah, there is this like weird competitive air sometimes in the like I think probably in any community there can be this, you know, I want to get to the top mentality,
Yeah.
which is hard. It's one of the reasons why I went with the wellness collective that I did was because that was one of the first things that the owner said to me is like why would you be in competition? There's so many people that are literally desperate for help. They're
Yeah.
desperate for an answer that there's no reason to be anything except just in flow.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I feel like when you have like the right intention, you're met with those like the same things that every industry presents, but it's also like if you really want to help people, you're able to like look past it and not get as um discouraged or
Yeah.
I guess downplayed in a way, you know? I feel like you don't get sucked in with the current.
Yeah. That brings me to my next my little talking point was
Okay.
being a content creator and still being spiritually aligned. How is that?
Oh, that's a tough one. I was actually just looking at my TikTok page and I realized I haven't posted for 3 days, which is not great. It is encouraged to post, you know, several times a day. I saw people advise that like you want to treat it like you're feeding someone like breakfast, lunch, and dinner posting. And I can't imagine that. I feel like it's very draining. Also, I just feel like in trying to make my content page thrive, I've had to learn a lot of balance because there have been times, sorry, that I've had like a lot of energy and I was posting like 8, 9 times a day,
Mhm.
and then I would use up all my energy, and then the next week I couldn't post at all, you know? And I wouldn't say I'm perfect at that now. Clearly, I still, you know, have my challenges, but I think it's actually taught me how to like conserve my energy and be more, how would I say it? Like, oh my gosh, what's the word? It would be like strategic about how
Yeah,
I'm going
yeah.
to use my energy. And also, like, I feel like it's taught me how a lot of the other media that I see, yeah, specifically around spirituality, could be like um, phrased a certain way or posted at a certain time, you know, to get your attention. I can see how there's like a lot of manipulation, honestly, and becoming aware of that has been difficult, but it also taught me a strong lesson about how I guess it is important to step back from that
Hmm.
stuff and compare yourself as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting stuff.
Well, I mean, there are it's such a weird world to be, you know, a spiritual person or a teacher or a reader, but then also have a social media presence.
Yeah,
And it's just, you know, you're totally right. It is this delicate game of balance of my energy, balance of like, I don't know what materials I'm putting out there even.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's a thing I've actually had to face recently. Um, during a very stressful time back in like November, okay? November 2024. I noticed that like no matter what I posted, it was like generating emotion within people, and I had no intention to go there in any way, but I just realized like any tarot card reading I posted, it would like strike a nerve. And I actually ultimately decided to stop posting like for you page tarot readings because
Hmm.
it's just uncomfortable with the idea of it like landing in the wrong hands and it like striking a nerve. Um, I apologize, I forget where I was going with that, but it's very challenging to post things and be confident that it's received the right way unless you're very careful about it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I wish it was different, but I don't think that that's changing anytime soon. So,
It's unfortunately relatable. I turned my YouTube comments off in November for that reason.
really, yeah.
Yeah. They're still off.
I mean, I don't blame you. I like to think that I'm very open and like I have thick skin. It's not that, you know, I would really get offensive, it's or offended. It's just that I didn't like the idea that I could potentially be bringing up emotion within other people, or my comments could be, used to attack other people.
Mhm.
So I had to learn to be more, I guess, mindful of that and monitor them more. Um, I want to create a safe space for people, and
Yeah.
that's not always the easiest thing to do on the internet. So,
Oh, the joys of the internet. It's not a
oh,
sa it's not a safe place out
yeah.
there.
No, it is not. Oh my.
I know that you are also a Reiki practitioner
Yes.
too.
Oh, yes, that's such a fun thing to talk about.
How do
Um,
you feel like energy work can like relates to your life as a reader? Do you feel like energy work impacts your intuitive work?
that's a really good question, honestly. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
I feel like it does. Um, Actually, I was reading for 2 years before I went into learning about Reiki and practicing Reiki. And the main reason I actually seeked Reiki out is because I was constantly drained by doing readings and I wanted to show up in like my best energy. So I figured out that like going through Reiki attunements could sort of help me shed those layers that were, I guess, keeping me in a lower
Mhm.
energy. I want to be careful about how I say that because I think it sounds a little silly, but it taught me how to, like, I guess, regulate my own energy and clear my energy at times. And I think, honestly, it made me more sensitive to a lot of things. So now, when I do readings like online, especially remote, I feel like it's easier to bring in people's energy, if that makes sense. I've
Oh, I
opened up
agree.
that channel more.
Mhm.
So I think it's been very helpful. It's just the main thing that I've learned is um, how to, I guess, be aware of when my energy is out of whack more than anything and when I need to rest. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like after I got Reiki attuned, I agree my intuition and my work as an intuitive was increased to where I was just like more aligned and in tuned with everything, including myself.
Yeah.
And I'd never thought about this, but I also feel less drained working.
Yeah, it's more refreshing, I think, at times. Um,
Do you
oh,
do Reiki on yourself?
I do. I'm sorry about my computer's noise.
That's fine.
Yeah, I do. I like to do Reiki, especially after I do vendor shows, because I do feel like it's a lot bigger of an exchange when I'm around a crowd of people and there's a lot in and out. I do feel like I get very drained, so I like to do Reiki to just kind of let everything go at the end of the day. I like to like take showers and spiritual uh, routines like that. Or I'm
Mhm.
sorry, make my routines more spiritual. And I feel like incorporating Reiki into that has been really helpful to me.
I know a lot of Reiki practitioners who do that with their coffee or with their
Mhm.
shower or,
Yes.
their breakfast, whatever it is, to where they're doing that intentional energy reset every day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. I love this is a little bit silly, but I love to do it with like my makeup. I like
Hmm.
putting it in my moisturizer before I put it on my hand or when it's in my hands, I kind of charge it up and then put it on my face. And I
That's
actually like
smart.
to think it gives me a little bit of protection in a fun way.
I like that. I might have to try that one.
Yeah, yeah, you will. I like to do it with my conditioner too. I like to think that I'm like sealing off my split ends with good love.
I like that. Whenever I am indigenous, and so I'm very particular about my hair and the care of my hair. And whenever
Yeah.
I'm in the shower washing it with the comb and I'm combing conditioner in, I'm always saying nice things to myself.
Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful.
Because those are
So
the rules when you're braiding somebody's hair, that
yeah,
you are saying good things about them and for them, and that you're like wishing well wishes for them while you braid. And so it's
yeah,
the same when you're doing your own hair, that you're like putting good
yeah.
energy into your hair.
That's so fascinating. It's interesting that you say that because very recently, I became very much more aware of how my hair is like an extension of like my crown, right? Like, and how important it is to take care of that. So it's
Hmm.
very cool that you share that. I'm going to definitely keep that in mind now.
It's a big deal in indigenous culture. Hair is where you carry all your wisdom. So when you are born, your wisdom starts in life. And then as you grow older, you have all this wisdom in your hair from all your braiding. And then
Yeah,
when somebody that you love passes away, you cut your braid off to give them wisdom for their next life.
that's so beautiful. Oh my goodness. I love that. Thank you for sharing that too. That's super,
Yeah. Hair
yeah.
is definitely the more that I learn about energy work, the more that I can see how connected every culture is. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
American Indigenous, Mexican Indigenous, African Indigenous,
Yeah.
Asian Indigenous, like all of these ancient cultures of the world all have these rituals and ceremonies connected to energy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so fascinating. Um, I think it's crazy how disorienting it can be, in our day-to-day lives and how we don't talk about that, but then the more you go down that journey, the more you realize how frequently this is practiced, yet it's just not discussed.
Well, I know, Sarah, because we are born and bred to wake up, drink a cup of coffee, go to work for 12 hours, come home, grab McDonald's on the way home, and do it again
Oh,
until
oh,
we're dead.
what a life to live.
I feel like I just did a workshop last night, a reconnection to self workshop. And one of the big things that we talked about was making the time and space for self
Yeah.
every day. I feel like that has been so vital to intuitive work, to being a good Reiki practitioner, to being an ethical reader, is taking care of my own spirit.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's very special. And I think like I mean, I think it's easy to fall into the thing of reminding everybody else to take care of themselves and then being like somewhat ignoring that advice for yourself is to, forgetting to take care of yourself. I apologize, it's not coming out super great, but I understand what you mean. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, I just had that conversation last night with my friend that's an intuitive as well. I feel like I end up going to her and she reminds me like you wouldn't allow your friend to treat herself that way. Like you would be encouraging her to like take care of herself. And I think I've been self-employed through offering tarot and energetic services for 2 years now, and that was something that like I feel like I didn't allot myself at the beginning because I was like this is my day to day, like I have to do it even when I'm not feeling great. And
Mhm.
I learned that set me back more than it helped me many times. But
I feel like that's a hard lesson that every single one of us who does this as a job, you
yes, yeah,
know, oh
absolutely.
man, in the beginning, I pushed myself so hard,
Mhm.
exhausted myself greatly. And
Yeah.
I don't think it benefited me or anyone else.
No. I mean, I'm sure that you handled it very, very well as far as how you like dealt with people, but at the end of the day, like at what cost, like how are
Yeah,
you benefiting from it if it's leaving you so drained?
I I agree. And I think that too, that's where, at least in my humble opinion, one of two things happen to people is that one, they reach spiritual psychosis. They have no
Yeah.
way to rein themselves back in, because they're
Mhm.
not taking a pause at all ever.
Right, they're not grounded.
They're
Yeah.
not grounded.
Yeah.
And that's also when the over ego happens of like, I am a guru, magic master, whatever the fuck, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And
Yeah.
if you are not in a balanced way, I feel like, it can be dangerous as an intuitive too, because you're dealing with people who are at their most vulnerable points.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, you said it so well though. Like it can really go one of two ways. Because I think, at least with the ego part, like we think that oh now we have a gift and we have to share it with everybody, and we don't have any time to stop because if not, somebody will not survive without us, right? That's a very dangerous way of thinking, and I've seen so many people be that way. And then spiritual psychosis is I have a lot of empathy for people that go through it, but I also feel as though um, maybe there's not a nice way to put this, but I feel like there's a heavy stress on being receptive, and I feel like there's a lack of reception at some point. You know, we have to be very careful about being closed off to others. I feel like that comes off insensitive when I say that, and I don't
Yeah,
want
I
it
hear
to.
you.
But you get where I'm going with that, though.
Yeah, I do.
Um, just not willing to hear other people out is a danger or a red flag to me, I guess, and I feel like I've seen that a lot.
Yeah, and that ties so closely in with ego too, of like
Yeah.
I'm right, which
Mhm.
in the world of being an intuitive, being a guide, being a teacher, you have to remain teachable in a way that when new information comes to you, that you can absorb it and use it instead
Yeah.
of say like, well, that's not my way.
Yeah, remaining teachable is what I was looking for. Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure.
I was struggling with it so bad. But yeah, I feel like I've noticed that with even people that I looked up to at the beginning of my practice. And unfortunately, I feel like I've seen them become more and more bitter in time
Mhm.
because they're just not willing to grow and they were just very much stuck in the perspective and things that they learned years ago. Which I feel like I haven't been in the spiritual industry that long, so maybe I am not qualified entirely to say this, but I feel like it's changed a lot in recent years. So I feel like in order to stay connected to the community, it would that's something that should be prioritized. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that the anecdote to that is having good spiritual hygiene in general, having
Yeah,
good grounding, having good ways to reconnect with yourself after doing work, because intuitive work is uprooting no matter how grounded you are. You're working with other people's energy,
yeah,
and you have to find a way to put your pieces back together afterward.
100%. I mean, I even think of like the chakra system. You know, if you're gonna spend all your time up here, eventually it's gonna take you out of your body, or do the opposite of grounding. I suppose it's. I think it's funny how often that can be overlooked.
I know. I try to, whenever I'm helping people, tap in more with their intuition, I'm always like, well, what are you doing to ground yourself?
Yeah,
The most, the most connected that I feel to my intuition and when I get the most clarity is when I'm in deep meditation, when I'm in
yeah.
Zen stillness is
Hmm.
when I have the most clarity. And so I always encourage people, like, if you want to be a good reader, if you want to do intuitive work, meditate.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like I give that advice a lot too. Like, you don't need the crystals, you don't need a bunch of tarot decks, you don't need books. I mean, all of those things are wonderful and great. It's just never necessary to start. I actually wish I would have focused more on meditation at the beginning because I think that that made me very susceptible to like just more open to heavier energies, whereas I feel like if I was much more grounded, I wouldn't have gotten so perturbed.
Yeah, well, and then
Um,
people, there are people that look for individuals like that are in the beginning stages of their healing so that they can sell them shit.
oh, absolutely. And that did happen to me. I'm guilty of that. Like
Me
I
too.
feel
It's like, how could I not? I wanted to be good at meditation. I wanted to be an excellent student. And so I was like, yeah, I'll
yeah,
buy this
yeah.
stuff. But
Uh-huh.
really, in reality, what I needed was a pillow to sit on so that I could
Yeah.
meditate and be with my own feelings.
Oh my gosh, it's so real. It's so real. I to think back on how much money I spent on all these like crystals and oils and
Everything.
everything. Oh my goodness. I could have a new car probably. Like
I
it's
know.
crazy to think about. And I realize I think it's a stepping stone where you go through all of that and you want to dive into everything and then I think the longer you do it, the more you simplify and it kind of funnels down to the most important things.
Maybe it's a rite of passage. You have to spend $10,000 on crystals first.
Maybe. I don't know.
Crystals and books and whatever until,
Have you ever noticed, like, have you ever tried to advise that of somebody that like you don't need that stuff, and then they sort of push back at you, and they're like, but, and I think it can be received wrong at times.
yeah, I think that sometimes, at least in my experience, when I am having a session with somebody for guidance, and sometimes I'll tell them, like, well, you don't need this.
Yeah,
You don't need to talk to me. Like, you need a
I agree.
journal and
Yeah.
whatever. Sometimes people will be
Oh
like, what the hell is going on?
no, that's so true though. Um, I unfortunately I feel like I've come off rude when I've been live streaming and doing my readings because there have been times where I'm just like begging somebody to just like sit down and journal. Like, girl,
Yeah.
like take it 10 steps back and then you will find the answer. I'm not gonna be able to give that to you, you know?
Probably one of the reasons why I don't like to do a lot of relationship readings because I feel like I'm very cutthroat in a
Oh
relationship
yeah,
reading, especially
absolutely.
if I'm pulling cards like banish a curse, the
Yeah,
death card, and I'm like, please go, go, go.
yeah. Oh my. I feel like, and this is coming from a place of empathy. A lot of times there are people that seek out readings when they don't want to do the work, right?
Mhm.
They're hoping that somebody else can do it for them.
To give them a fix.
Yeah, and I before I would have just tried to help somebody to the best of my abilities, but sometimes now if I see that, I would rather like refund them and say like, "Hey, like I would be happy to read for you, but like maybe next week. Maybe try to take a breather first before we get into it." Um,
Yeah, I mean that's part of having discernment of like where you want to put your energy. Like, do I want to spend my energy with somebody who is not willing to do any of the footwork behind what I'm saying? Or do I
yeah,
really want to work with somebody who's literally not listening to me? Like, it's not worth the
right,
money to me, it's
right.
worth the energy to me.
Yeah, yeah. And I think like to an extent, it's like with any other service, it's like if they're not going to take care of themselves, eventually they're gonna have like a negative response, and that might, be directed towards you eventually. It's like if you were to go get your hair done and then not take care of it afterwards, you're gonna be like, oh, this person gave
Ruin
me a
my
bad
hair.
haircut. Yeah, they ruined my hair. But it was, more on you for taking care of it. Silly stuff.
Yeah. And it's hard. This is a very vulnerable line of work too. People are often not in a good place when they're seeking spiritual advice and guidance. And there can be challenges with that too, for sure. And I think that the practices of self-Reiki and meditation and that spiritual hygiene that we were talking about allows for more healthy discernment as a practitioner to
Yeah.
where, my ego doesn't get in the way, like I can fix them or be this solution or have the answer, because that
Yeah.
is ego that feeds us that narrative.
Yeah.
Um, and so anyway,
Oh yeah, it's very easy to fall for. I think it's like a double-edged sword, really.
it really is.
Funny. Um, I'm very glad that I've had the opportunities that I have, because I think it helped me to kind of speed run past that stuff in a way. I don't think that I'm like, how would I say, like over it. Like I feel like I could definitely fall into that, but I'm thankful that I've gotten to read for so many people, so that that's more apparent now versus like later in life.
For sure.
Yeah.
This has been awesome. I am so grateful that you wanted to come and be the first guest
Oh
on
my
the
gosh, I'm
new
so honored.
season.
I had a great time. This is so cool.
I'm
Yeah,
excited. I don't do hour-long podcasts. I don't even understand how people can
I don't
have the
know.
time to edit an hour-long video, but
Oh my gosh,
that shit
no.
ain't me.
I, uh, I think it's so interesting, but I also couldn't imagine it. I think you would have to employ like a group of people to take care of that. I can't imagine.
It's just me out here. So
Just
that's a
me.
no. I
Oh.
do want you to plug where people can find you. Where can they get a reading from you?
Yes, thank you so much. So I am on Instagram and TikTok primarily. It's at guidance.by.sarah on both of them. In my Linktree information, you can also find my email address, and on my Instagram, you can find my business line if you wanted to text that. Please don't call me. I probably will not answer. um,
That's
I know
smart.
that's
A
probably messed
business
up to admit.
line.
I do have a business line. Yeah, it's just I think if it's an emergency and you don't want to like send me a DM like it like needs attention, I do try to be as available as possible. So that will be there
That's
if you want to
awesome.
check it out. But yeah, thank you guys so much, or thank you so much. Thanks for everybody that listened.
Yeah, I will put Sarah's info in the description in the Instagram post that I do
Mhm.
for this. Hopefully, this week is my goal.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited. I'm excited to show everybody.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And I am hoping many people come get a reading from you because Sarah is the person who reads my cards. I don't have
Thank
any other
you.
reader
Oh,
except
I would be
Sarah.
honored. I'm so honored to read for you. Shout out to Jess. She's the coolest.
Oh my
She's
God.
like the only person I feel comfortable recommending to people because I just know that she's always grounded and ready to help people with
That's
the
so
best
nice. You
intentions.
have recommended some people to me who, and I've been like, oh my God, Sarah brought you to me. I can't believe
Yeah,
it.
love her. You're the best.
Well, thank you, Sarah.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording. Everybody, you can, what do people say after a YouTube video? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't
Yes.
forget to do that to the podcast. Okay, everybody, until next time.